INFJs are often described as calm, kind, and deeply thoughtful. They're known for being good listeners, for understanding emotions, and for wanting to help others. On the surface, that doesn't sound like the kind of person people would hate. And yet some people do. The confusion comes from what most people don't see. INFJs aren't just sweet or gentle. They're complex. They carry a strong inner world that doesn't always match how they appear. They may seem quiet, but inside they're constantly observing, thinking, and reading the room. They may seem soft, but they carry strong opinions, deep values, and emotional intensity. People don't usually hate INFJs right away. In fact, they're often drawn to them at first. There's something about the way an INFJ makes you feel seen, heard, and understood. But over time, that same emotional depth can start to make others uncomfortable, especially if the person around them is hiding something, either from others or from themselves. Hate is a strong word, but sometimes what people call hate is really discomfort. It's not that the INFJ did something cruel or wrong. It's that their energy brings up things others would rather not face. The INFJ doesn't have to try to expose someone. Just being who they are can feel like a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. This video looks at 6 strange reasons why some people react negatively to INFJs. These reasons aren't always obvious, but they show how emotional depth, quiet strength, and sharp intuition can trigger strong reactions in others. It's not about blame. It's about understanding what happens beneath the surface when someone brings real energy into a world that often runs on pretending. Reason number 1, their emotional intensity overwhelms others. INFJs feel everything. Even when they don't say much, they're emotionally tuned in. They sense what others are feeling. They pick up on sadness that hasn't been spoken, or tension no one else notices. They feel happiness deeply too, but there's a strong emotional current behind their calm face that never really shuts off. This intensity doesn't always show on the outside. But people feel it. It's in the way the INFJ listens. It's in their eyes when someone opens up. It's in how they stay quiet but fully present, like they're looking straight through you. For some, this feels comforting. But for others, it feels like pressure. Not everyone wants to be emotionally understood. Some people feel safer when their feelings stay hidden. When they're around someone who sees through that, it's like being emotionally naked. Even if the INFJ doesn't say a word, the other person feels seen in ways they weren't prepared for. That exposure can make them uneasy, even angry. People also get uncomfortable when emotions feel too heavy. INFJs don't do surface-level connection. If they're present, they're fully present. That kind of focus makes some people feel cornered. They're used to casual talk, distractions, and small talk. But with an INFJ, there's nowhere to hide. This emotional intensity also shows up during conflict. INFJs don't argue for fun. But when something matters, they show up fully. They speak with depth and purpose. And they often see the real reason behind the problem, not just what's being said on the surface. That kind of clarity can catch others off guard. Sometimes people just want to be right. They want to defend their ego or win the moment. But the INFJ isn't interested in ego games. They're speaking from a deeper place. And when someone's fake confidence is met with that level of emotional truth, they can feel exposed or even attacked, even if the INFJ was being kind. INFJs aren't trying to overwhelm people. They're just being real. But in a world that avoids emotional honesty, that realness can feel like too much. And when people don't know how to handle that intensity, they push back. Sometimes with silence. Sometimes with distance. And sometimes with hate. Reason number 2, they refuse to play superficial games. NFJs don't care about popularity, power plays, or social status. They're not interested in being liked by everyone. They'd rather have one real connection than 100 shallow ones. That alone puts them at odds with how many people operate. In most social spaces, there are unspoken rules. Smile even if you don't mean it. Laugh when someone makes a joke, even if it's not funny. Say what people want to hear. INFJs see through all of that, and they often don't play along. Not because they think they're better, but because it feels fake. And they can't pretend for long. When INFJs sense that someone is being inauthentic, they shut down. They stop engaging. They don't argue or call people out. They just mentally check out. And that quiet rejection hits harder than words. People notice it, even if the INFJ never says anything. To someone who relies on being liked, that distance feels personal. They might think the INFJ is judging them, or they might feel ignored or excluded. In truth, the INFJ just doesn't connect with fake behavior. They're not trying to insult anyone. But their refusal to join in with small talk or fake smiles makes them stand out. In work or group settings, this shows up too. INFJs won't play politics. They won't flatter the boss or act fake to move ahead. They do their work, speak honestly, and let their actions speak for them. People who climb by pleasing others often see this as a threat. It challenges the system they've learned to survive in. In friendships or dating, the INFJ's honesty can also be a problem. They don't rush into things. They want something real, and they can spot red flags early. They may choose not to invest in someone who seems charming, but fake. That quiet rejection can feel sharp to someone who's used to getting attention. People don't always know why they feel bothered by the INFJ. But deep down, they sense the INFJ isn't buying the performance. That discomfort builds into resentment. And when someone's ego depends on being accepted, being seen through is hard to take. INFJs don't refuse to play games out of arrogance. They do it because they value what's real. But in a world that often rewards pretending, their quiet refusal becomes a kind of rebellion. And people don't always react kindly to that. Reason number 3. Their silence is unsettling. Most people are used to noise. They're used to people filling the air with conversation, opinions, jokes, or small talk. Silence, especially in social settings, makes people nervous. And INFJs use silence a lot, not to create tension, but to protect their peace, think deeply, and observe. This quiet presence can feel powerful. INFJs don't rush to speak. They take their time. They listen more than they talk. And when they do speak, they usually go straight to the point. There's no need for extra words. That kind of communication style stands out in a world that values speed and noise. For some people, this silence feels like distance. They assume something is wrong. They wonder if the INFJ is angry, cold, or judging them. But the INFJ isn't trying to make anyone feel uncomfortable. They're just not interested in speaking unless it adds something meaningful. In group settings, this silence can shift the energy. INFJs often take a back seat, observing the dynamics. Others may not know what the INFJ is thinking, and that unknown creates discomfort. People who like to stay in control of social situations feel unsettled when they can't read someone else, and the INFJ gives them very little to work with. This discomfort grows when people realize the INFJ is noticing everything but saying nothing. They're watching, processing, picking up on tone, expression, mood. And that kind of awareness, paired with silence, makes others feel exposed. It's also common in conflict. When others expect a reaction, the INFJ stays quiet. That silence is not weakness, it's calculation. It's choosing not to waste energy on drama. But people don't know how to handle that kind of control. They expect a fight, and instead they get a calm wall. That calm can feel threatening. Not because the INFJ is doing anything aggressive, but because they're not reacting. That makes others feel unsure. It breaks the pattern. And for some, that unpredictability is harder to handle than anger. INFJs use silence to protect their energy, to think clearly, to keep their emotions from becoming chaotic. But others see that silence as something negative. They misread it. And when people feel insecure or out of control, they often respond with judgment or resentment. That's why this trait, which seems harmless, often creates tension. The INFJ's quiet nature becomes a mirror that reflects back the noise in others. And not everyone can sit with that. Reason number 4. They hold others to high moral and emotional standards. NFJs don't always speak about their values, but they live by them. Deep down, they care about truth, kindness, fairness, and integrity. And even if they don't say it out loud, they expect others to do the same. That silent expectation is powerful, and sometimes uncomfortable. They're not looking for perfection, but they are looking for honesty. They want to connect with people who show up with real intention. And when someone lies, cheats, manipulates, or plays games, the INFJ notices. They don't always call it out, but they change how they interact. The shift is quiet but strong. This can feel like rejection to people who are used to being accepted no matter what. They feel judged, even if the INFJ didn't say a word. That's because the INFJ's values create an invisible boundary, one that others can feel but may not fully understand. The INFJ might not argue. They may never confront someone. But they stop investing. They stop trusting. They step back. And that quiet withdrawal sends a clear message. I see what you're doing, and I won't be part of it. People who cut corners, manipulate, or act selfishly don't like this. They expect others to either go along or challenge them openly. But the INFJ does neither. They just remove themselves. And that silent boundary can feel more powerful than words. What makes this more intense is that INFJs don't forget easily. If someone crosses a moral or emotional line, the INFJ remembers. They may forgive, but they won't return to the same level of trust. That long memory of emotional truth makes others feel exposed, especially if they're used to pretending everything is fine. In close relationships, this becomes even more difficult. INFJs hold people close with care, but they also hold them to high standards. They believe that real love means honesty, growth, and emotional responsibility. And when someone refuses to meet them there, the INFJ pulls away. This creates a strange dynamic. The other person may still want the INFJ's warmth, presence, and emotional support, but they don't want to meet the standard that earns it. That tension builds into resentment. And sometimes that turns into hate. The INFJ isn't trying to be better than anyone. They're just living in a way that feels right to them. But people who don't want to look at their own behavior often react badly to being silently held accountable. Reason number 5. They see through facades and hidden intentions. NFJs are intuitive by nature. They can walk into a room and feel the energy shift without anyone saying a word. They sense when someone's being fake, even if the person seems charming or kind. They feel when someone's lying, even if the lie sounds perfect. And they notice hidden motives that others miss completely. This ability isn't something they brag about. It's just part of how they experience the world. They're always watching, always sensing, always connecting the dots. And that ability makes them difficult to fool. For people who rely on manipulation or image control, that's a problem. It doesn't matter how good their act is, the INFJ sees through it. They may not expose it out loud, but they adjust their behavior. They stop trusting. They stay guarded. And the other person can feel that shift. This triggers something deeper. Most people don't like being seen too clearly. They're okay with surface-level judgment. But when someone understands them on a deeper level, especially the parts they try to hide, it makes them feel vulnerable. And that vulnerability turns into defensiveness. INFJs don't need proof to know when something's off. Their intuition tells them. And even when others deny it, the INFJ holds their ground. That confidence in their own emotional radar makes others feel small, especially if they were trying to hide something. In social situations, this shows up quickly. Someone might be charming in a fake way, using humor or flattery to cover insecurity. The INFJ won't respond the way others do. They won't laugh too hard. They won't flatter back. And that cold reaction feels like rejection to someone who's used to controlling the room. In personal relationships, it goes even deeper. If someone is hiding their true feelings, motives, or flaws, the INFJ feels it. They ask questions that make people uncomfortable. They notice small shifts. They make comments that sound casual but hit a nerve. That's when people start to feel threatened. The INFJ doesn't need to dig. The truth comes to them. And people who aren't ready to face themselves may hate them for it. Not because the INFJ did something wrong, but because they reflected something that person didn't want to see. This kind of insight isn't just rare. It's disruptive. It breaks the illusion. And when someone's ego depends on the illusion, the person who breaks it becomes the enemy. Reason number 6. Their contradictions confuse people. ENFJs are full of contradictions, and that makes some people uncomfortable. They're introverts, but they can be deeply social in one-on-one settings. They're kind and soft-spoken, but they hold strong boundaries. They are private, but somehow always know what's going on around them. These mixed traits make them hard to define. People like categories. They want to know where someone stands. Are they quiet or outspoken? Sensitive or strong? Open or guarded? But INFJs don't fit into those simple labels. One moment, they're deeply empathetic. The next, they're completely detached. That shift confuses people who need others to be predictable. This confusion creates discomfort. Some people start to question the INFJ's intentions. They wonder, are they being real? Are they hot and cold on purpose? Why do they seem close one day and distant the next? But what looks like inconsistency is actually balance. The INFJ is trying to stay emotionally grounded in a world that often pulls in opposite directions. They might help someone all day, then disappear to recharge alone. They might seem totally engaged in a conversation, then suddenly go silent. They might seem gentle most of the time, then speak with sharp honesty when something important is on the line. These switches feel natural to them, but not to everyone else. People who depend on control or emotional clarity struggle with this. They can't figure out how to get a read on the INFJ. And when someone can't be read or predicted, they're often seen as suspicious or untrustworthy, even when they've done nothing wrong. In relationships, this contradiction becomes even harder to manage. One day, the INFJ might open up, sharing thoughts and feelings. The next, they seem distant or shut down. This isn't manipulation. It's self-protection. It's how they manage their emotional energy. But people who expect steady emotional feedback don't understand it, and sometimes they take it personally. That confusion can turn into resentment. People want to feel safe around others. And when they can't figure someone out, they often assume the worst. They think the INFJ is hiding something or playing games. But what they're really seeing is the INFJ trying to survive in a loud world while staying emotionally honest. These contradictions aren't flaws. They're part of what makes INFJ strong, intuitive, and unique. But when someone wants simplicity and predictability, these same traits can turn into a reason for dislike, or even hate. INFJs don't set out to make people uncomfortable. They don't try to create conflict or cause tension. But their presence, deep, intuitive, emotionally sharp, often challenges the people around them. Especially those who live on the surface, hide behind ego, or resist emotional truth. Hate doesn't always look like hate. Sometimes it's distance. Sometimes it's gossip. Sometimes it's quiet resentment that grows over time. And most of the time, it says more about the other person than it does about the INFJ. The strange reasons people dislike INFJs usually come from fear, confusion, or emotional discomfort. When someone sees through your mask, holds you to a higher standard, or doesn't play your game, it's easier to push them away than to grow. If you're an INFJ, don't let that reaction change you. Your presence brings depth. Your truth brings clarity. And your silence often says more than others' loudest words. Not everyone will understand you, but the right ones will. And if you've ever experienced this kind of quiet rejection, you're not alone. Share your story. Someone out there probably needs to hear it.